right, well, hello everyone, and welcome to our intro episode of the Still Building America podcast, part of the FMA Podcast Network. My name is Darla Welton, and I am here with my husband,
Josh Welton. Hello.
This is the first episode of the new podcast format of the Still Building America series that Josh began writing for thefabricator.com in 2014. And it has sort of evolved over the years into me sharing that written platform with him. Then it turned into video interviews and now this podcast format. And we're really excited about that. And we love all the support from FMA. Our friends there are incredible. But Josh, tell us a bit about the history of Still Building America, why you started writing the column.
It was 10 years ago now. I'd been doing a lot of traveling, whether it was for showcasing my art or just to talk about the welding industry, the trades, and just general road trips to friends' shops and, different areas across the country. And online or talking to people at the factory, I believe I was in my fourth year at General Dynamics Lighting Systems. And before that, I'd been at Chrysler. You always heard about how the next generation doesn't want to work. The kids don't want to work these days. And it's kind of a trope, like it's an evergreen thing. You go back through the generations and everyone says the next generation doesn't want to work. And pretty much they're all wrong. They just find different ways to work. And I was getting really frustrated at this just being this theme when I was traveling and talking to these kids that were anywhere from their, high school up to their late 20s, early 20s, talking about how they were getting into an apprenticeship or they were going to find a trade school or they just taught themselves. That was as, YouTube became a big instructor of pretty much all the trades. And that's something that I hadn't counted on. I thought that was going to kind of lead to a road to ruin as people kind of half-ass learn stuff. But the reality was, as generations come and go, they latch on to technology quicker than the generation previously. And so online, social media, YouTube, things like that, they all became a very big part of this next generation learning to work with their hands. And they just weren't doing it in the same way. They weren't hopping on the factory train and doing 30 years and out trying to retire, because those jobs just really don't exist in large quantities anymore. A lot of them were, self-trained, starting their own business, working for another business to learn the ropes, and then starting their own thing. Like, it no longer was this source of pride to say, or I should say that it was no longer a negative thing to say that you had gone from job to job to job. Now that's how you kind of climbed the ladder. And I just had so much firsthand experience talking to these people who were doing these things. And even these people were like, the other kids don't want to, do this or that. And it's like, they all wanted to work. They all wanted to do something. They just found different ways to do it. And it really hit me, this complete disconnect from what I was hearing, these old, stereotypes, into what I was seeing. And what I was seeing was not what I was hearing. So I had this idea where I actually woke up in the middle of the night and emailed Vicki Bell, who was the editor, my editor at the time at FMA.
Shout out Vicki Bell.
Vicki's the best. And I was like, I had this idea where we do this column, and it's called Still Building America, because I had already been writing for them in other capacities. And I said, let's do this column. And I want to feature people, some folks that didn't have the spotlight shown on them. Keep it at 35 years or younger, and showcase what they're doing. What they're getting into, what their passions are becoming in metalworking. And it didn't have to be welding; it could be anywhere from blacksmithing to metal shaping, just anything in the trades. Whether you're an electrician or you're a sculptor or you're a millwright or you're an iron worker, or an artist. Even
manufacturing entrepreneurs, anybody.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Engineers,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
People who really were getting their hands into the nuts and bolts of what it means to make things.
Especially those who are doing it a little bit differently and interestingly. But as well as people who are just taking traditional paths and kind of hustling at it.
And what was cool is it's been a decade now, and I think we've seen the cycle go towards where a lot of high school vocational classes were wiped off the map to people realizing like that's a really viable way to get younger folks into jobs that could either help them through college or maybe it becomes their career. There started becoming an upswell and an upswing in trade schools coming back, in vocational classes coming back. And, Skills USA has always been there, and it's really, really taken off and things like that. And, I got a little bit of crap early on for like, oh, why are you cutting it off at 35? You don't want to hear the older folks' stories? And it's like, no, I love those stories, and we'll tell them in different capacities, but they've already had, like, they've got so much recognition for being, this generation of factory workers, this generation of people, not just factory workers, but, hot rod builders, motorcycle builders, all that kind of thing. And I think what people were missing is those people were inspiring this younger generation. So I wanted to focus on the folks that weren't getting the headlines at the time, that weren't getting a lot of publicity. And what's kind of happened is, we got a lot of younger people, but then we started really getting into, the kind of the people who were, they didn't look like everyone else. They, the women getting into the trades, the Latino community getting into the trades, African Americans, and just folks that really never had, like you always think of, you go to Fab Tech, and especially 5 years ago, I think we walked through Fab Tech at Chicago and we saw like 3 African Americans the entire show. And I know they make up more of the workforce than that, but we always see the middle-aged white guy, and there's nothing wrong with that. I fit that bill perfectly. But the more strings you pull, you realize there's a lot of other people who are making things go that just don't get the recognition.
And the face of the industry is changing
100%.
Quickly. We want to make sure that we're sharing our platform with those people.
And that's not to exclude, like I said, that's not to exclude the younger white males. It's just become this kind of thing where the people we're reaching, or the people who are reaching out to us, are these folks who have had, some of them have had a difficult time. Some of them have had a blessed course where it's come really easy for them. But when you look at the public narrative, it's, you don't see these people being talked about. And I'm not even talking about, like even now you've got these influencers who...
These influencers.
Yeah, well... they make they're the ones who are getting on Good Morning America or whatever and making this big thing out of, like, look at us, look how cool we are, we're doing this thing. And it's, what about, there's so many other folks that are just going about the grind, doing their thing, and not getting that kind of recognition. So our kind of thing has always been, let's bring these people, let's give them a spotlight in any way we can. And a lot of it is when you're running your own business, publicity is a big thing. It's a big deal. So just to try to help these folks, and then to show other folks out there who might be struggling to find their footing, or thinking, hey, nobody looks like me that does this, and see that, hey, no, there are these folks out here, and it is a path that's viable, and you have a place in this community, in this industry, to shine. And I think that the Still Building America has taken on kind of its own life force. It's become its own thing, and very naturally has evolved. It's one of our favorite things to do, and we've met so many cool people through it. Every single person, their life is a movie. Their life is a story. They've all got these, even if it seems mundane, they've all had these profound moments that change their life in one way or another.
If you haven't had the opportunity to check out some of our favorite stories, please go to thefabricator.com, search Still Building America, and you will find 80 plus stories. Like Jeremy Hannaford was one of the early stories that Josh had interviewed him. And he became a paraplegic in 2004, and he learned how to weld by running a pedal with his elbow, which is just incredible. Like we talked to Sharon Hall, who escaped a domestic violence situation and was given an opportunity by a welder in her community. And thinking of like Ed Littlefield, who had a hilarious experience where he met a guy named Scooby, who was a welder in New Jersey, and Ed was working the late night desk at a hotel, and then he quit on the spot to drive down to Florida and start welding school.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we've talked to countless women who have shared stories of hiding pregnancies or dealing with difficulties on the job or not even having a restroom for women.
It was shocking to me how many women we've talked to that have faced so much ugly discrimination and so much physical violence. Like, I guess,
Yeah.
I mean, me being a guy working in a factory, I haven't worked with a lot of women. I've worked with some, and they're just like us, some of them are good workers, some of them aren't, whatever. But I never realized the depth of the just the abuse that they take. And I know it's there because I hear the way people talk, but then to see it come out in violent manifestations was really an eye-opener for me. And that's another thing, like just trying to bring awareness that this shit's real. Like it's happening every day. It's still happening every day. And we've made a lot of progress, but there's still so much more to go. And then just the stereotypes of, that women like TIG welding because it's nice and clean. And it's like, no, we're interviewing all these badass girls who are working in the oil field or working on the pipeline or doing structural, stick welding and this and that. It's not just, hey, they're not just all artists like some people like to think they are. They're badasses. They get dirty.
Absolutely.
They get down and dirty, and they get the job done. Yeah,
we've talked to Lashana Lintamo. She's kind of an all-around American badass. And her grandmother worked on ships as Rosie the Riveter, and Lashana's an iron worker. And then there was Melody Brown, who was a third-generation blacksmith, welder. Her grandfather was a blacksmith and also a black man in the Jim Crow South. Couldn't get any equipment. Nobody would sell equipment to him, so he had to build his own equipment and out of stuff he found on the side of the road, old farm equipment, whatever it was, to get his business going. And so she came up from that. Then we had Joe Brown. Joe Brown is one of the coolest guys out there. He has done so much to inspire young people to get into welding. He had an incredible story.
Yeah, he was in prison, took some weld training while he was in prison, then continued it out of prison. And now he's welder / life coach for all these young people coming up and showing them, hey, like I went through the worst of it and I'm still here. You can start your own business. Because a lot of times, like if you have that record, it's hard to get jobs. So he's like, if you can't find a job, just make your own job. And it's really impressive to see what he's done and how he continues to be really positive and really motivational for a lot of folks.
Oh, absolutely. Gosh, I just think of all of the different people that we had an opportunity to highlight, even friends of ours like Andy Diderossi. Yeah. He has a bus company here in Detroit, and Andy is a man of many ventures.
He does rally races. He's started a automotive company. He has the Detroit Bus Company, which does tours of Detroit, and that's for profit so that he can provide buses for students to get to school in a nonprofit.
And then he made a quick pivot during the pandemic to create hand sanitizer and like literally was
giving
like,
people jobs and providing something that was necessary.
Yeah. He's just one of those go-getters that inspires us and all the people around him. And so we loved highlighting the work that he's doing. I even more recently interviewed Shonda Chambers, and that was such an awesome interview. She and her husband, they're in Chattanooga. They have Chambers Welding. They do workshops and they do beautiful work all around their community. As a husband and wife ourselves, we love seeing a husband and wife doing work like that together. So we've had so many incredible people that we've had the opportunity to share this platform with. And now we have this ongoing opportunity in a new platform, and we really hope that this will be something that everybody enjoys listening to, looks forward to these podcasts. We know that these stories are going to be inspiring and fun. We're really excited to share the stories of the people that we have lined up. But of course, we just want to thank every person who participated in all of these interviews over the last 10 years, willingly shared their stories. And some of them, honestly, were quite difficult to share. They're so personal. Every story that we told, every person that we talked to inspired us to find the next person whose story needed to be told. What's crazy, Josh, is since you started Steel Building America in 2014, the generation of high schoolers who are just getting into welding have now been possibly in the industry for a decade.
Now they're the experts, they're the business owners, and I still remember it was quite a few years ago, but like I guess that's when you realize you're old. Is a guy came up to me, and I think he was in his mid-20s, and he's like, "Hey man, you inspired me to get into welding, and now I work on the pipeline, and it's my career, and I love it." And he had found my work when he was in his teens, and that motivated him to go down that road. And that was, I mean, it means so much to hear that hey, whether it's through example or through words, you're reaching people, but it's also like, oh, I'm old now, so it's really cool though. It's cool to talk to the kids, or now some of my friends even, that whether on purpose or not, we had some sort of influence with, and now are living their best life doing what they love to do. And another part of what we do is I'm not gonna tell people, I'm not gonna lie to people. There's a lot of that going around with trade schools saying you're gonna come out making $200,000 $200,000 a year, or other schools saying this or that. The average age of a welder is 55. They're all retiring, which is complete nonsense. I want people coming up and coming into the trades to know the reality of it, that it's not just jobs falling out of trees, that it's very difficult work. It's a great way to love, if you love it, if you really enjoy it. And that's one of our things, is trying to get people to experience it, in middle school, in high school. It's, hey, this is a cool thing. This is an important thing. Get your feet wet, see if you like it, because if you don't like it, you don't right off the bat and you're going to go a different route. If you do like it, then you've got options. You can go into engineering, you can go into the trades, you can do whatever you want. But at that point, you got to know what you're getting in for, and it's not an easy road. It's long hours. It's not always great pay, although you can get up to where you make a decent amount of money. It's not about the money, though. You got to really love it. You got to want it. And if you don't, you're just going to be, kind of miserable, and you don't want that either. People will say that I'm negative. I'm not negative. I'm trying to be real so that you get into doing something you love, whether it's welding or becoming a software engineer, whatever it is.
And I think that these stories really share the heart of that. We're sharing the real world stories.
None of these people are dispassionate.
Exactly. It is one of the greatest things that we do, because it fuels us so much. And we hope that these stories will fuel your day too. It's probably going to be 35 to 45 minutes during your day listening to this podcast, hearing an inspiring story from somebody in our industry. We're excited to share all these stories with you. And we've got Morgan Evans coming up. She's part of Torque and Tungsten. We met her at M1 Concourse, and she won a drag racing competition, grudge match. So we're going to talk to her. We even love getting suggestions for people to interview. We have Peyton Ray. Her boss actually mentioned her to Josh and was like, hey, I've got this young girl. She's the lead fabricator in our shop, and she's awesome. You've got to talk to her.
America's Most Wanted 4x4. They're like the largest distributor of Mopar crate engines, and they build demon-powered Gladiators and elephant-powered Wranglers and all these crazy off-road machines. And we were talking at Roadkill Nights, and he's like, dude, you got to talk to this girl we hired. She's incredible. So that's going to come up. we've got a lot of people lined up. I've got some ideas of other folks I want to talk to, but we're always all about suggestions. If whether it's yourself or you just see somebody that's undeniable and they need their day in the sun,
reach out to us. You can email us, Darla at Brown Dog Welding or Josh at Brown Dog Welding, or reach out to us through social media. Yeah, we're excited about this. We're excited about the next era of Still Building America.
Stoked that FMA is like they've always been behind us, and this is just one more example of that.
Yes. So shout out to the OG, Vicky Bell, and of course to Dan Davis, Gareth Slager, Amanda Carlson, and Rafael Guerrero. You guys are all amazing. We hope you know how much we appreciate you, and we love you all. You guys are amazing.
Anyways, yeah, we're excited about this. Stay in touch. Keep listening. Give us your feedback, whether it's good, bad, or the other. Let us know how we're doing, and hopefully you'll be entertained and inspired.
Where would we be without Vicky Bell?
Probably in a gutter.
Probably.